Hello and welcome to a live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I'm John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Snyder Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder, doing the same at InsideTheLines.substack.com. But today we are here to talk about Virginia Tech.
We're an ACC show now.
Yeah, the Hokies hiring James Franklin, which was officially announced Monday evening, which I think is the news that a lot of people care about. And we'll get into how this impacts Virginia Tech, how it impacts Penn State. For those of you who are looking for coaching search updates, I'm guessing that will be more part of our regular show.
Whenever we chat again next.
Whenever that is, because we'll also both be in Blacksburg in all likelihood for James' intro presser Wednesday morning. Got to figure out the travel there. Audrey,
can we teleport? Can we? Is it possible?
I would be greatly appreciated if we could. I've been driving too much lately. What is your initial reaction to the hiring, which again was announced Monday night, despite it being reported by someone Saturday morning that it was in the early stages? How interesting.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while. We mentioned that Saturday.
Yes.
An offer was on the table since at least Friday, and James Franklin was thinking about that.
I would say that an offer was on the table well before Friday.
Middle of last week.
And I would argue more than on the table, I would say that there were terms that were agreeable. It was just a matter of making a final decision.
Making sure one party didn't get cold feet.
Yes.
That party being James Franklin, as he kind of surveyed all the options.
And making sure Penn State was involved in this because as I reported, and you reported as well, the $9 million or the $48 million buyout is not a thing. Stunner, who could have seen that coming?
I thought they couldn't afford to fire James Franklin, John.
Right. That's what. Right. Finally,
all along we've been saying this. Contract mitigation is a thing. You can negotiate buyouts. We tried. And
to be clear,
we tried to help people who listen.
This was not even the mitigation part. This was a negotiated settlement, negotiated down to $9 million. And as I reported, that is not a lump sum payment. I know it is. Some have reported that it is. It is not a lump sum payment. According to a source that I spoke with, and as I reported, this is a great thing for Penn State, right? Like this is a fantastic situation where the university and the athletic department doesn't have to pay a massive sum to a head coach who is no longer here. They can go spend that money elsewhere, as we anticipated they would. Before we get any further into this, just want to bring up another fantastic podcast, the Bill and Doug Show. Bill Landis wants to know if James can hire Kevin Patullo as offensive coordinator. We can only hope. Anyways, Audrey, your thoughts on James Franklin at Virginia Tech and how he fits with the Hokies?
Yeah, I'm curious. All along, I said I wanted to know where he'd end up. We've speculated about those landing spots, and now that we know that it's official, I think Virginia Tech was the best that James Franklin could do, and quite frankly, I think it's the best that Virginia Tech could do. Like, I think this is the high end of a hire that you could make at a program like that. And I think when you look at Virginia Tech and trying to bring them back to becoming a national power, James Franklin's the right guy for the job. And I say that because you look at what he did at Vanderbilt, you look at what he was able to do in State College. This guy's a program builder. We know that he can build. We know that he's got the energy, the enthusiasm, the wherewithal. He's going to wear people down even within his own program to get that alignment that he speaks of. Again, the man wears on people. That's to his credit and also to his detriment. But that's what makes him successful, and that's part of it. And I think when you look at taking Virginia Tech to that next level, that's the kind of stuff that you need, and that's the kind of energy. I mean, I think back to when he went to Vanderbilt for, again, I covered James since he got to Penn State. So when he got to Penn State, I was talking to all these people at Vanderbilt about what he was like there. And one of the things that stuck with me was what someone told me at Vanderbilt. They said the energy and enthusiasm that he had at this place, it hit it like none other. And I think that's what we're going to see in Blacksburg. You talk about, which also is funny because it's like he's replacing Brent Pry, who he's super close with. And so like that is a very strange element, kind of funny element to all this. And I wonder if Pry then will be part of the staff. I've got my piece up over on Inside the Lines with my thoughts on James Franklin and Virginia Tech and getting into who I think follows him, both from a player perspective, recruiting perspective, coaching staff, all of that. But yeah, I mean, I just think this is the right guy. I think this is the upper echelon that Virginia Tech could make. So kudos to them for going out and getting it done. But yeah, Penn State wins the negotiation by banking on James Franklin's work ethic and drive, and knowing that the guy couldn't stay away from football. Like, Penn State read this situation correctly. And John, you and I know this. If ever you spend time with James Franklin, he's not wired like most of us. The man doesn't take a break. And that's what they were banking on and saying, all right, we're hoping he gets a job elsewhere for financial reasons and for him to make him happy. And so I think both sides can move on with that.
And how do I say this? Firing James Franklin after a 3-3 start is much better than firing him after a 3-9 or a 4-8 season or 5-7 season, because you can hand wave away the 3-3 start. Like, wow, they just fired him after 9 months. 9 months ago they were in the college football playoff semifinal. You can say those things. When it's a 3-9 season and it happens, it's like, oh, what happened here? Why is this a mess? Or does Virginia Tech not know he's available? Right? Like, all of these things that can come into play. Like, that's why Penn State made the decision when it did. And that's why James Franklin was available this whole time, and why Virginia Tech was able to get him. And I'm with you. I think it's a great fit for Virginia Tech. I will be curious to see, you mentioned the enthusiasm. He's older now. Like, he is, I think, tamped it down quite a bit. I do think has a lot of energy still, and is going to be aggressive in trying to get Virginia Tech where he wants to take it. Do I know if he's going to be at Virginia Tech for the entirety of his contract? No, I don't. I think he wants to win a national title, and if he gets Virginia Tech to a good place and another bigger school wants to hire him, I wouldn't be surprised if, that comes next. But we also said that about him at Penn State when he first got to Penn State, and even in the middle of his tenure at Penn State, and lo and behold, he was here for 11 plus seasons. So I do think it is worth noting that it is worth watching what the contract looks like, the length of it and everything when that comes out. I think Virginia Tech is subject to sunshine laws, and we'll be able to get that contract at some point. When we do, we'll discuss that.
Shine in, baby. Here we come.
Yes. But yeah, I think this is the ideal scenario for James. I think it's the ideal scenario for Virginia Tech. And it's the ideal scenario for me, because I am rooting so hard for Brent Pry to be his defensive coordinator. I have never wanted, it is not my job to take sides or anything. I desperately want Brent Pry to be Virginia Tech's defensive coordinator, because I think it would be funny. And I think a lot of other people do too. But yeah, I don't know that it'll happen.
I think we'll see a reunion of former Penn State coaches, former James Franklin colleagues in Blacksburg. Like, I think we're definitely going to see that. I am wondering if Ricky Ronnie fits into that equation, depending where things stand at Old Dominion with him. I don't know. He's done a great job there. But, when you look at people that James Franklin is extremely close with, is and has been, Ricky Ronnie is certainly in that inner circle, along with Brent Pry from the Penn State perspective. I mean, I wonder, too, how quickly do we maybe see people on this staff that are in the building, the Andy Franks, Kevin Threlkels of the world, who are very close to James, who have been in that inner circle? Are these guys here the rest of the season? Are they already en route to Blacksburg? I don't know.
Are they in Blacksburg for his intro presser Wednesday? I think it's worth
we'll find out.
Because when you have people in the building that are going to join James at Virginia Tech, and that James is going to target Penn State players potentially to join him there, and other staffers,
and recruits, and that
do you want those voices in the building class still? Do you want that to be a part? I don't know. I'm not saying that they would do anything, with that regard, or that that Penn State thinks they would, but I'm just saying it is something worth considering, and how quickly coaches and sports staff members move. We will get into the ramifications for Penn State. But before we do that, I do want to say that, and we'll get into the ad reads here in a second too, Audrey. I saw that look.
I was getting ready for that, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'll take one more thing real quick. I will drop one coaching search nugget that before we talk more about that later this week. I do think that this could be slightly helpful for Penn State if one of the additional names that I have heard is
say it. Just say the name. Just say it. Don't bury the lead.
So Bob Chesney was a
maybe we'll stop at JMU on the way down.
Was a part of. Not a bad idea. Was a part of Virginia Tech search. I said on Saturday that I thought he was a part of UCLA search, along with people like Will Stein and others. His name is gaining a little more traction at Penn State. I reported that this afternoon already on my coaching board, which you can find at SenatorDaily.com, that it is the name that I am watching beyond the top two of Brent Key and Kalen DeBoer. And so we will see how that goes and how discussions with Chesney and everything goes when he has them with Penn State, because there have been discussions with a lot of candidates, to be clear. But he is a name that that I think is worth watching, and I think he would hold out for this job if he thinks he has a real chance at it. So, but before we talk about the other, yes, now we can get to the ads. If I can find the ads. Audrey, you go ahead.
Well, John, let me tell you about our friends at Roback. You've got a Roback hoodie on today. I see the logo.
Yes, of course.
No Roback hat today. Probably Roback joggers if you'd like to stand up and show the people. No.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Why?
Okay,
never mind.
Mostly because I'm wearing Adidas joggers today.
Okay, so you're already getting ahead of the brand apparel deal for next year at Penn State.
Right.
But our friends at Roback, you can save 20% off your first purchase over at roback.com when you use code TND20. That's TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20 to save 20% off Roback your first order. John, you ready?
To be clear, I am wearing Adidas joggers because I didn't want to be as comfortable because I know that those Roback joggers were more comfortable and would be more comfortable.
I thought you were going to... Never mind.
Yeah, don't. Whatever you're about to say, no. Anyways, one play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DISPATCH. That's code DISPATCH to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21-plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Not my best work.
Sorry, I muted myself during that because I was typing something. But you should be more proud that I remembered to mute myself, other than people would have to hear my loud typing during your wonderful ad read. So here we are.
That's very true. All right, and I do see people talking.
We got some people mixing it up in the comments.
Yeah, people talking about Terry Smith's presser. We'll talk about that later in the week. We're going to focus on.
We can get to that at the end of the show. We can get.
I feel like this is a James Franklin show. We will talk about Terry later this
at the end of the show.
No, it's fine with the.
It's today. It's news. It's okay. The ramifications for Penn State for this.
Yes.
I think we have to see who follows James, and I think when you look at the what year are we in? The 2026 recruiting class. What day is it? What year are we in? Who knows? The recruiting class that's disbanded, I think you're probably going to see a decent number of those guys follow James to Virginia Tech. Now, I say this because James Franklin's really good at building relationships, and it's relationships with players and parents and those kinds of things. I think when you look at it and you say, all right, well, why would people follow him to Blacksburg? Well, why were these people going to follow him from Vandy to Penn State, right? Like we've seen that with Trace McSorley and Grant Haley in that first recruiting class. Well, I want to find out how Virginia Tech, and this might take a couple years till we figure this out, but financially, how aggressive are they going to be with NIL, with rev share in terms of financial resources? Like I know James will keep pushing for these things, but off the bat, do you have it or don't you? I'm curious with 2026 quarterback Troy Hune, someone who was committed to Penn State, decommitted. He's still looking around. What happens there? Obviously, you have Virginia Tech's whole recruiting class too, and what happens to those guys? This is another reason why it's good for both sides that the move came now, because James Franklin, and again, we'll see when he names his staff, how quickly or long that takes, because he's got to start meeting with these kids and getting guys on campus and working the phones and getting them there in person, which by doing this now, you can do this ahead of the early signing period in December 2nd, which also campuses then will be shut down for recruits. So that's the other angle from it. So yeah, you have to see which recruits potentially follow him to Blacksburg. I will say too, and I saw somebody mention this in the chat, James Franklin's going from one rural campus to another rural campus. So don't for a second think, recruits aren't going to follow him to Blacksburg. Well, they followed him from Vanderbilt to Penn State. he's had success here. You were able to get high-end talent to State College, which leads me to believe he can do the same thing at Virginia Tech and Blacksburg.
Yeah, and I think that is important to note, but also I do think the key difference is I think we'd agree that Vanderbilt to Penn State is a step up in the recruiting hierarchy, and Penn State to Virginia Tech is a step down. I think the difference, though, is there is a new world we're living in with NIL and everything, and so James Franklin can and the staff at Virginia Tech can incentivize going to Blacksburg, right? If he wants to get players to go with him, I wouldn't be surprised if there are players on the roster that go with him. Of the coaches, I think there are some.
Any players, any names that pop out to you on this roster? Because I was trying to think through this earlier.
Yeah.
And in terms of like Virginia guys,
the two obvious ones are that people will point to, and I don't know if they would, are Tony Rojas and Amari Campbell because they're from Virginia. Outside of that, I can't think of anyone specific other than like maybe Ethan Grunkemeyer, right? Because the quarterback thing is always a thing. They're always super attached to the head coach. But outside of that, and I think Penn State fans know this, next year's roster was going to turn over a lot anyways. And so I think there just might not be that many guys who go.
And I think the other part to the Campbell Rojas piece could be that they stay here if Jim Knowles is still here, right? Like I think you then could have that side of it too, where it's like, all right, I know this defense now. The defense has been playing at a higher level these last couple of weeks. Maybe it stays that way. I don't know. But yeah, I think how Franklin constructs his roster there is going to be interesting. And also, John, I wonder if James is going to be willing to bend and change a little bit, because part of what got him here, and here I mean like no longer at Penn State, is the inability to effectively use the transfer portal more. And he said, to his credit, he wants college football to be transformational and not transactional. And that was so much of, his old school approach. But at the end of the day, he preserved and prioritized preserving the locker room dynamic as opposed to let's go out and buy that high-end talent and bring it in, for a year or two. And so I wonder if that part of him maybe changes. My gut tells me probably not, because I think he's pretty stubborn and set in his ways, which is part of what makes him good at what he does. And he's, very convinced by what he does. And those relationships are genuine. And I think that's the other part when you say, okay, well, if guys are going to follow him, they believe in him. I mean, we were talking to players a couple of days after James Franklin was fired, and these guys were absolutely gutted because it was their coach and he recruited them and came and sat in their living rooms and met with their families and all these things and told them how great they were and how much they loved each other. As I shut my phone off with a phone call coming in, that kind of day. And so I think that's just, it's going to be interesting to see what Franklin does, how he does it. But again, Terry Smith's got this train moving forward, maybe toward bowl eligibility. We'll see. But yeah, I think how soon Franklin assembles this staff will be the other piece.
Yeah, and I think it's how soon so I guess this is more interesting to me with the coaching staff, because we would expect that support staff can just kind of go, right? And they would go down there. I wonder what
is the role of your GM? Like, what is Andy Frank's James's guy? He's Penn State's GM still.
Yes, I would think that he would be he is the guy that I'm watching that I think will be at Virginia Tech on Wednesday when we go down there. But I also think that of the coaches on staff, not a ton of them are tied to James in a way that he would be like, this is a guy that I have to get down there. I think Justin Lustig is one to watch, the special teams coordinator.
He's made it into James's inner circle. I mean, the way James was talking about Lustig this year, Stig, as they say they call him, it was clear that, special teams being the most consistent unit, all of that. Yeah, I think that's very much in play.
And I think Terry Smith people are not going to like hearing this. I would think Terry Smith would be one of the people that James wants to take with him. If that happens or not, I don't know. Everyone saw the emotion Terry has for Penn State, but also I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Terry was at Penn State because of James, and Terry is very grateful for James. They're very, very close. We talked about when James was fired that he said that he would want, if anyone took over for him when he was gone, he wanted it to be Terry, right? I think Anthony Poindexter is one that I'm curious to see what happens, because this is Virginia Tech after all. Yeah, and he's a UVA guy, so I'll be curious there. But outside of that, I think, Ty Howe, Deion Barnes, Dan Connor, they're more Penn State people than James Franklin people. Trace McSorley, Danny O'Brien, those guys I would expect to go with James too, but you never know. But yeah, I think this is it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because there are 2 weeks left in the season, and James is getting hired during the regular season when he was already fired. So there will inevitably be a push and pull of he wants his coaches to be there and to be recruiting and to helping him, but they will have a job to do. And curious to see how Penn State handles that.
Knowing James Franklin, he would want these staffers there yesterday. Like, that is just how he works. One of my favorite anecdotes from covering James did not come from him, but came from people who I spoke to about the process, the search that netted Penn State, that netted James Franklin at Penn State. If I could speak today, it would be lovely.
There you go.
Whew, here we go. And in that anecdote, when he left, it was a matter of James calling these people over to his house and one by one having them come up the stairs to his office and saying, hey, there's 2 planes at the airport tomorrow morning. I'm on one of them, and there's another one for staffers that's going to State College. Are you on the plane or not? Here's what I can offer you. And when they got to Penn State, and I think this is a good window into it for Virginia Tech fans that maybe are listening to us today, he was so hell-bent on getting started right away that they set up their operations over in the Penn State Conference Center, because they were all waiting for like HR clearances to pass and all that. And they were recruiting out of there and like working, because it's like you're not on campus, so you're allowed to do these things. Because that's how the man is wired. He doesn't take a break. And again, literally, he was fired a month ago.
Yes.
Fired a month ago, goes on game day less than a week later, says that he's ready to go. This is all he knows. He doesn't have any hobbies. And here we are on November 17th, and it's like, all right, James Franklin's the new head coach at Virginia Tech. I mean, that is a lot in a short amount of time for most humans to process. But again, and big-time college football, I don't know how much processing there is. I think there's just, all right, this is what I do. This is what I know how to do. Moving on to the next thing. And here's kind of the blueprint, the template to do it. I mean, when he got to Penn State, he was sleeping in his office on an air mattress, because it was like, my family's not here yet, so why would I waste 20 minutes and go and drive home? Like, I'm sleeping in a hotel. Might as well just sleep here and keep working. So yeah, I think the Penn State angle too. Would you be concerned with regional recruiting at all if you're Penn State and James Franklin's now in Blacksburg?
It depends. This is probably a cop-out answer. It depends on who they hire, right? Like, and it depends on the commitment that James gets from Virginia Tech donors and boosters NIL-wise, and what Penn State gets, right? Like, because I think recruiting is less and less about the coaching staff. I mean, they still matter, and location matters too a lot. I think it's more about the money. And that will impact things, right? If Virginia Tech can offer more money, then yes, they're going to be a problem. If not, then I don't know. I think it might just be business as usual, and James will be able to negative recruit Penn State if he wants to.
You think he's going to negative recruit Penn State?
I think everybody negative recruits. Like, anyone who says they don't.
You think he's going to come out and negatively recruit against Penn State as they give him $9 million to walk away?
The program that fired him, and he didn't release a statement about it? That program? Yeah, I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why we're driving to Blacksburg.
Yes, I have questions.
Yeah, I mean, I do think James Franklin, actually, let me see if I can pull this up. He, in the press release from Virginia Tech, which announced, the hiring of James Franklin Wednesday night, Franklin had a statement. No. Yeah, he did not mention Penn State, but I was pulling up the statement to see what he said. Here it is. Franklin said, I'm honored and humbled to join the Hokie family. My vision is simple: to restore unmatched excellence, to build something that lasts, and to serve this university, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and our amazing fan base with honor, integrity, and passion. I look forward to getting to work with our players, our staff, and the entire Virginia Tech community. This is written because not once in there did he say the word obviously. Yeah. And so that's a little self-editing there that they do, and you write, which is what we all do. We don't, we speak and we write sometimes a little bit differently. But I think there was no goodbye to Penn State from him. No. There was no graphic. There's no love thanks lost. For the 12 years. Thanks for the memories. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty cold ending. I mean, I know the day that he was let go, he was understanding of it, certainly. He was like shocked, but also, if this makes sense, shocked but not surprised, right? Like, he's been in the game long enough that he knows, the way things were going, he wasn't going to have a job here much longer. But yeah, I mean, he on game day, he spoke about wanting to win a national championship at the next place. John, do you think he can win a national championship at Virginia Tech?
Can, yes. Do I think he will? No. And when I say can, I think most
Yeah.
places can win a national title now. Like Texas Tech is a really good example of this. Elite defensive and offensive team that wasn't very good in recent years, right? Because they just went and spent. If Virginia Tech goes and does that, yeah, for sure they can win a national title. I just don't know that they will get to that level of spending unless Cody Campbell decides that he's a Virginia Tech fan. I just, it's hard to envision that. My guess, he's there for 3 or 4 years and then moves on to a high level SEC or Big Ten job again, and then that is his real opportunity to win a national title.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that it ended here is just kind of the way it is in modern college football, and I think his ego certainly was bruised, as it would be for anybody in that situation. That's let go, and I still, John, I don't know if I'm going to get into this Wednesday with him or not. If I get a question, I mean, imagine me raising my hand, and they keep passing the microphone around and don't give me a question. But Wednesday's not really, I don't think, the right time for this. But the question I still have is the one that so many fans have, and well, maybe Wednesday is the time. I don't know. What do I care? I'm not covering the guy day-to-day anymore. But this season was supposed to be about a national championship, and he said on game day that he needed time to reflect and learn from this season and study it. Well, you've had a month.
Yes.
What did you learn from, I won't phrase it this way, but what did you learn from the failures of this season? Because I think that's, Penn State fans still want answers, and we will do our damnedest to try and get some answers, and
listen,
we'll see how it goes.
We're on the same page there. I will phrase it that way. They failed because they were I think that's important, right? That he acknowledges, and that's part of the growth for him, is acknowledging that it's a failure, right? There's
going to be an archway of balloons, and they're probably going to play Enter Sandman. All these people are going to be pumped up, and all the boosters in the room, and you and I are going to be like, yes, and where did it all go wrong at your former institution?
Why did you fail so badly? And you were with your most talented roster. But no, again, appreciate everyone that's in the chat, asking questions, all that stuff. We usually try and get to them. Trying to keep it to James Franklin today. We'll get more to the coaching search later this week when we talk. I did see someone say that it's highly unlikely it's not a balloon payment. It is not a balloon payment. It is James Franklin is being paid $9 million spread out over an unspecified amount of time. It is not a lump sum. He's not getting anything else from Penn State beyond that. He's not getting the $48 million. It is $9 million, not in a lump sum, spread out over time. You feel like I should say it one more time, or do you think that one got through?
Yeah, I think it's $9 million spread out over time, which means it's not one lump sum. They're not paying him $48 million. They're not paying him $49 million. They're not paying him $50 million. James Franklin will be paid $9 million from Penn State University as part of a negotiated buyout, and that will not be a lump sum payment. Yeah. Just so we're clear.
Someone asked something very important. Said, "Do you think he'll pretend to not know who you are?" Which I think is a pretty good question. It's something I'm looking. We don't have an answer to it, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
That actually would be really hilarious.
You said Audrey? Is that who?
I mean, yeah. If you guys, I think I might have mentioned this on here before. I don't know if I did or didn't, but
now's
James's
the time.
First year, yeah. And I can let it all fly now. It's all I can air all of my thoughts. His first year here, and some of the people on the beat still joke with me about this and still call me this. He was like 50-50 on getting my name right. So he would call me Audrey sometimes. And again, I was young, so I was like too nice and didn't want to correct him. And so I just would like answer my question, like ask my question, just kind of move on. Sometimes he'd like get it correct the next time. But yeah, I mean, I think that's then he apologized by the end of that first year when it was pointed out to him that he was calling me by the wrong name. So.
Someone did say maybe he'll ask what we're having for Thanksgiving.
No.
It's a week early. We can't.
I've workshopped this one. I said today at the press conference while we were waiting for Terry Smith, I said, if this doesn't get over with soon enough, I am going to show up there and understand, or I'm going to show up there and say, raise my hand at Virginia Tech and say, James, turkey or ham? Intro presser, all these people have their questions, and just see how he'd respond to that. Maybe that's the way to go. Like, people are thinking he's going to pretend not to know us. Then I'm like, excuse me, James, it's almost Thanksgiving. I have some questions.
Listen, I think that's the best way to do it. Someone mentioned in the chat that this is the only channel that understands how buyouts work. I appreciate that sentiment because everyone has seen me lose my mind several times, if you've watched this show for a while now, about people talking about James's buyout in particular. It drives me nuts, but I'm glad that we are past that now. We know exactly what it is, and that is what, Audrey? What is James's buyout?
$9 million that will not be paid out in a lump sum that Penn State will pay former head coach, current Virginia Tech coach, James Franklin. I almost said Brent Pry.
Yeah. And you can find, I think this is probably a good place to leave it, by the way.
We got to talk about Terry Smith. No, we got to talk. I just want to touch on this because it's news. It happened today. That we'll bring it up to speed. We heard from Terry Smith Monday, putting a bow on, where were we this past? Michigan State. Putting a bow on Michigan State. This is going to be great driving to Blacksburg. Yeah. Putting a bow on Michigan State. And I asked him if, I'm trying to land the plane, or how many people had reached out to him after the game, and if one of those people was James Franklin. And Terry didn't answer if it was James or not, but said he has 2 phones, and he, probably had 500 unanswered texts on each phone, and all these DMs that were unanswered, and he started crying during it and said, this job means so much to him, and that this is like one of the greatest honors of his life, to be the head coach at Penn State University. And, you could tell the sincerity, you could tell the passion, you could tell why guys love playing for Terry Smith and why he's so blunt and honest with the way he handles them and interacts with them, and what this opportunity means to him. And I think it was a really good reminder of so much of this season has been written off for months because of after firing James and all of that. But this season still means a lot to the players, and it means a hell of a lot to Terry Smith to have the opportunity to be the head coach at the place where his dad graduated from, and that opportunity for education transformed and changed his family. And Terry said it showed them, what was possible through education and opportunity, and really raw, emotional stuff. If you get a chance, I encourage you to look at it. It's all over the internet going viral. But I do want to mention this, John, because
if you're watching the part about him talking about his dad and everything, skip the first 7 seconds. You hear my voice enough on this podcast. You do not need to listen to it again.
Well, this is my point, right? So you see and you hear these viral clips that are all over about Terry Smith today, as they should be, just a genuine, sincere moment. Please remember, you don't get those quotes, you don't get that information without the beat writers in the room asking the questions for those videos, for those quotes, for those aggregated story, blog posts, whatever you want to call them that are out there, right? That is part of our job. It's a function of our job to ask people questions, whether it's about lighthearted topics, whether it's about serious topics, whether it's about things they want to talk about or things they don't want to talk about. That is our job.
And it is important too that those things happen in press conferences and away from the podium and in all situations. I think that is worth noting too, right? That it is important to talk to people all the time.
Yeah, and having those relationships, but also being able to, not just get the aggregated story from some, national television outlet or wherever that isn't here. That's you and I and the rest of the people in that room doing the work to get answers for a fan base, to get answers for a college football community, whatever it may be. I just wanted to say that because I think so often people see the viral, and we do. I mean, again, as content consumers, as sports fans, we see the clips all the time of your favorite team. Again, that's the role of the beat writer, which is also why we show up to ask James Franklin questions this week, because that's part of it.
Yeah, and I can't say enough. Highly recommend subscribing to everyone in that room.
Sorry, I have one more thing. I have one more thing I wanted to touch on with James Franklin, and it just popped up. I looked at the future schedule.
They do not play them. They do not play.
No. No, they don't play Penn State. But next year, John, have you looked at this at all?
I know he plays Mike Loxley, and I think is it Old Dominion? Is Ricky Ronnie on there?
Oh, Ricky Ronnie's on the schedule next year, assuming he's still at Old Dominion. They play Old Dominion next year. They play at Maryland. So James Franklin, where he once was the head coach in waiting, he'll return to College Park. And we know that Maryland's keeping Mike Loxley. They said as much on Sunday. John, hilarious development. But in ACC play next year, Pitt goes to Blacksburg.
Nice.
So we get a Pat Narduzzi, James Franklin, and boy, oh boy, I can't wait to get the Penn State schedule to see if there are any holes in it that line up.
I was going to say, if that's a bye week, we're going.
And in 2027 and 2028, this is also a really good one. Virginia Tech plays at Notre Dame in 27 and 28. Notre Dame comes to Blacksburg. So that, again, you get assuming everything stays status quo, which is a big if in this sport. You get some James Franklin, some Marcus Freeman, some Orange Bowl vibes. There will be no joint presser because it's just a regular game week. But yeah,
I'm sure Marcus Freeman will be totally normal if they did have a joint presser. Nothing awkward at all about how he handles James joking around. I think we'll end this show exactly how we started it, with a mention of the Eagles and my frustrations there. So ask if we can cover the Eagles. Would love some answers on the offense. I would like them as well. Someone did say hopefully James brings Ricky with him.
I will touch on this too.
Not impossible, by the way.
Yes, Penn State gets out of the biggest financial hurdle today with James Franklin, but they still do have other coordinator and assistant coach contracts that they still could be on the hook for. So again, you get out of the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle financially, but there still are ramifications. But those coordinator contracts also do have mitigation. Again, I still anticipate that Jim Knowles will be here next year, but Andy Kotelnicki, I do not think will be joining James Franklin in Blacksburg. You never say never in this sport, but there's a lot to unpack with this season.
I think Andy will land on his feet. I think he'll be a good coordinator elsewhere. I've said that before. I don't need to hammer that point home anymore. But unless you have anything else, Audrey, I think this is a good place to leave it.
If anybody has any restaurant recommendations for Tuesday night in Blacksburg, please let us know. It is senior week for Penn State, back on the team that we actually cover beat.
Senior day. I think senior week.
Sorry, senior day. Yeah. It's not senior week. Gosh, that would be funny. And it's senior night, actually, not even senior day, because it's a night game.
Which I didn't know until...
I had informed John of the start time at the press conference today. I said, man, what a time. We have to ask about senior night because it's a 7 p.m. kick about Nebraska. And John goes, what? What do you mean? And I said, it's a night game that came out like Sunday, like super, super late Saturday night, Sunday morning.
It came out early in the morning, and I was driving home, and I had so much other stuff I was working. I was working on the coaching board last night, making phone calls and everything too. I just never saw it. So
this was the night before. This was I know.
Before. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It was like right when we got back from Michigan State. Yeah, and I got my 3 hours of sleep and headed to the airport while you drove back.
I got home. I started writing Good, Bad, Ugly. I started working on the coaching board, and I never got on Twitter yesterday. It was kind of nice, but I digress. That is, like I said, a good place to leave it. As we've said time and time again, Penn State owes James Franklin $9 million. It will not be paid out in a lump sum. It'll be paid out, spread out over time. All right, I think we've said that enough.
I hope.
If you would
Maybe
like to read,
sticks this time.
Yeah, you'd think. If you'd like to read Audrey's work, you can find that at insidethelions.substack.com, where you find accurate information about the buyout, which I think is important to note. You can find her on Twitter at @OddSnyder4 and on Blue Sky if you look up audreysnyder.bsky.social. Those are always going to be a struggle for me. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber and on Blue Sky at johnsauber.bsky.social. You can find all of my writing at centerdaily.com, including the same stuff about the buyout where I originally reported it. Someone did say, how's the buyout work?
How's the buyout get paid out?
Someone asked it in the chat too, which I deeply appreciate. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts after we are live here, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Those really help us out. And again, leave those questions in the chat about the buyout if you'd like. I will answer it again the next time we're live if you would like. I would happily do that. About the $9 million that Penn State is paying out, not in a lump sum, and instead paying it out spread over time. I think that, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button down below, hit the subscribe button. That is incredibly helpful for us. We will be back at some point this week. We will be here to take all of your questions live about the coaching search, which we will discuss ad nauseum.
Senior night.
Senior night, not senior week, of note. But until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.